existence of aliens is being kept hidden from the public. One man makes it his mission to discover the truth.
Bonkers.
Mr.
Bonkers. Bonkers.
UFOs are now hauntingly familiar. They have shared our skies for an uneasy 50 years. Eyewitness accounts testify to their breathtaking speed, unparalleled maneuverability, and uncanny silence. They are different than any aircraft made here on Earth. These stealthy visitors are called UFO'S, unidentified flying objects. They have shown up unexpectedly in photographs taken all across the globe. Roswell, New Mexico lies deep in the empty expanse of the American Southwest. Today, its very name conjures up memories of a supposed UFO crash and government cover-up. It is remembered as the Roswell incident. In the summer of 1947, the Army airfield in Roswell was home to the elite 509th Bomb Group. During World War II, the B-29s that carried atom bombs to Hiroshima and Nagasaki had originated here, and so would an event that gave substance to the belief in flying saucers.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Walter Hott was Public Information Officer of the 509th Bomb Group. He was the official instructed to dispatch press releases to the radio station and newspapers in Roswell. The story fed the imagination of the country, but has been the source of controversy ever since.
The press release that I received stated that we had in our possession parts of a crashed flying disc. The material was found on a ranch north of Roswell.
Then the story abruptly changed. General Roger Ramey took command of the Roswell situation and issued a new statement. It wasn't a flying disc after all.
To me, I think it was one of the slickest cover-ups by admitting that we had the material, and then a higher authority says, no, you don't.
Flying saucer or weather balloon? Both Air Force stories couldn't be true. One fact was undisputed. Something had crashed at Roswell. A rancher named Mac Brazel discovered the metallic debris in this isolated rangeland outside of town. The wreckage was strewn over more than half a mile, and Brazel alerted the base, assuming a military plane had crashed. Jesse Marcel Jr. recalls that his father, the intelligence officer at the Roswell Army Airfield, had been dispatched to the debris site to determine what had crashed there.
The night that my dad came home, he was very excited. He woke my mother and myself up and said he wanted to show us something very strange. And as I recall, he said this was parts of a flying saucer. I was 11, almost 12 at that time, and I had seen pieces of an airplane and weather balloons and things like that, but this was not like anything that I'd ever seen before. And the most intriguing portion of the debris that I recall seeing was what appeared to be I-beams. When I looked at this with the light reflecting on it, I noticed what appeared to be some symbols or writing along the inner surface of this I-beam. And the implication was this was something that came from some other planetary system.
Author Kevin Randle researched the Roswell incident and learned more about the debris Major Marcel had collected.
You have something called metal foil, been described by various people as like tin foil or lead foil. You wad it up into a ball, you drop it on the table, it unfolds itself and there's no sign of a crease.
Randall interviewed some people who say they actually handled the mysterious wreckage back in 1947.
It was all wadded up when he dropped it, and when he dropped it on the table and it hit the table, it spread out just like it was water. And so they all started holding it and playing with it, and they were trying to cut it with their knives, and they tried to burn it with their lighters, and they couldn't do any damage to it at all.
There were also rumors of a second crash site with even more stunning discoveries. Frankie Rowe's father said that the fire department was called to the scene. There he had observed nothing less than actual extraterrestrial beings.
They'd gotten a call on what they thought was a plane crash about 30 miles north of Roswell. And when they got out there, it was not an airplane. He said it was a flying saucer that had crashed. And there were what he called little people. And he said one of them was still alive. That there were two that were covered up laying on the ground. And he said they had been covered up, it looked like, with body bags. And the one that was walking around there didn't appear to be hurt.
Through his research, Kevin Randle has established what he believes happened next.
According to a number of the eyewitnesses, the craft and the bodies were taken to Hangar 84 at the Roswell Army Airfield, where they were held for a period of time before the various flights were initiated and sent out of Roswell.
Randall believes that crates containing the alien bodies and flying saucer wreckage were shipped out of the heavily guarded Hangar 84, never to be seen again. When the Air Force produced one meager weather balloon at the Roswell crash debris, many concluded it was part of a cover-up.
In the 50s, there was the belief that the U.S. Air Force had proof of some sort that these were alien spaceships and was covering it up to prevent panic.
There obviously was a cover-up of this accident, because years later my dad said he was actually part of the cover-up because he went along with the weather balloon story.
Indeed, according to Marcel, his father revealed that he had been ordered to pose with wreckage from a weather balloon.
My dad explained to my mother that this was a non-event. Don't even discuss it with your friends. Don't talk about it. I was a true Air Force brat. Believed in following the orders, He didn't want me to talk about it, so we did not talk about it.
These people were visited by military authorities. They were told to keep quiet.
Frankie Rowe recalls such a visit from a man in a uniform.
He started getting louder, and he kept saying, "Don't you understand? You did not see anything." And he had a nightstick type of thing with him that was kind of hanging on his belt. And he took that out, and he got very loud, and he started talking, and every time he would make a point, he would hit his hand with the nightstick. So he would say, "You didn't see anything, you were not there." And he said, "If you ever say one word about this the rest of your life, we will split up this family. If that's not enough," he said, "this is a big desert out here. We can take you out in the desert." And he said, "No one will ever find your bodies."
If this disturbing account is true, it can only be described as a death threat, a warning to remain silent about the Roswell incident. What was so vital to protect In January of 1948, the Air Force would launch an investigation into the escalating flood of UFO reports. Something crashed at Roswell, New Mexico. But whether the object that fell from the sky in July of 1947 originated here on Earth or somewhere in outer space has been hotly debated for more than a half-century. Perhaps it truly was a weather balloon, as the Air Force insists. If so, that would deflate one of the seminal events in the history of UFOs. However, if the object was in fact extraterrestrial, the issue then becomes, what business did it have at Roswell? At the time of the Roswell crash, New Mexico was host to the most advanced military and scientific experiments on the face of the planet. In fact, the Roswell area was the only place in the world where testing of cutting-edge radar, rockets, and nuclear weapons could all be found. Perhaps these lurking UFOs had become a threat to national security. The Air Force quietly began investigating the rash of post-war sightings in January of 1948. This inquiry was codenamed Project Sign, and by October, it would reach a truly stunning conclusion.
Project Sign wrote a final report called The Estimate of the Situation, which concluded that UFOs were interplanetary vehicles. You can imagine that this didn't go over well at the Pentagon. The government could not have the idea of UFOs as interplanetary spacecraft coming out when they've been trying to cover up the Roswell crash.
It went all the way to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, who said, I don't find this document particularly persuasive. He batted it back down and fired practically everybody in Project Sign. The people who were left at Project Sign could read the handwriting on the wall. If you said they were extraterrestrial, you lost your job. Your career was over.
After the purge, the inquiry was revamped as Project Grudge, a name that may have suggested a certain skepticism. An Air Force insider actually characterized Project Grudge as the dark ages of UFO investigation. In August of 1951, this V-shaped pattern of objects appeared over Texas and became known as the Lubbock Lights. Grudge said it was a flock of birds reflecting the glow of the city. This film was submitted from Great Falls, Montana in 1950. It depicts bright white dots moving behind the smokestacks of a grain mill. The photographer described the objects as shiny, bright, and metallic, like polished silver. Project Grudge concluded that they were F-94 Air Force interceptors landing nearby. After 3 years of debunking UFO reports, Grudge was reorganized into the supposedly more objective Project Blue Book.
Blue Book became the focus for public attention and press attention. But it was never scientific, it was never comprehensive. They didn't have radar, they didn't have computers, they didn't have people ready to go up, in aircraft with instruments to monitor UFO sightings. Typically, an officer, a sergeant, several secretaries, their job was primarily to try to tell us that there was nothing to flying saucers.
Major Hector Quintanilla Jr. became Blue Book Director in 1963.
The objectives of the program are twofold. They're the same as they have been since 1953 when the regulation was written. First of all, to try to determine if the UFO phenomena presents a threat to the security of the United States. And second, to determine if the UFO phenomena exhibits any technological advances which could be channeled into research and development.
Many of the UFO reports were easily explainable as atmospheric anomalies, like this saucer-shaped lenticular cloud formation. The man who shot this film, a Navy officer and aerial photographer, claimed he saw these objects up close before getting out his camera. He said they were disc-shaped and gunmetal colored. Blue Book determined they were high-flying birds. Astronomer J. Allen Hynek, a Blue Book consultant for its entire 16-year run, had this assessment of the project. Quote, "When Major Quintanilla came in, the flag of the utter nonsense school was flying at its highest." Blue Book's most notorious nonsense came in March of 1966, when it dismissed a wave of credible sightings, including many by policemen, as swamp gas. In December of 1969, the Air Force closed down Project Blue Book and washed its hands of UFOs.